Thank you for joining us for this sermon podcast from United Church on the Green, located in New Haven, Connecticut. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are invited and welcome. If you enjoy this podcast and would like to learn more about our open and affirming ministry at United Church on the Green, please visit our website at unitednewhaven.org. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. If no one has had a chance to tell you how very glad we are that you are here this morning at United Church on the Green, please hear us say, we're so very glad you are here. Welcome to all who have no church home, who need strength or who want to follow Christ, who have doubt or who do not believe. Welcome to new visitors. Welcome to old friends. Welcome to children and to grandparents, to mothers and fathers and to single people. Welcome to families of all configurations, to young and to old, to believers and questioners and to questioning believers. Welcome to everyone. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are more than welcome here. Will you please now rise, bring down the Bible and sing the first hymn. Oh, dear God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our Redeemer. Amen. Well, today is our homecoming Sunday, and being the child of an academic, I always think of September as the beginning of a new year. And so how appropriate it is that we brought in new members today, that we're going to be commissioning our deacons. We're going to be having an ice cream Sunday social. I mean, it's all about coming back together, isn't it? And for those of you who are away for the summer. For those of you who've been gone or who are new and who have just come back, welcome. Welcome to the new year, United Church on the Green. Welcome for those who indeed are looking for and seeking an active and alive church that speaks to being open and affirming, non-judgmental, seekers of justice and mercy, and those who are full of the Spirit. Welcome. But you know, we all recognize that we are all on a journey, one of many different paths, but a journey that has companions along the way. We hear stories of joy, and we hear stories of injustice. We hear stories of tragedies and celebrations, of death, and then of renewal and of hope. But dear people, I have to share with you that I fear for our country and our world. With fires and with earthquakes, of hurricanes and of tornadoes, of words that speak of fire and fury, not of peace. And I see climate change all around us and among those even for whom it is death and deaf ears. I really fear for the homeless and for the marginalized, for the dreamers and for the illegal immigrants, for our transgender friends of ours in the service. I fear for the loss of LGBTQ equality and the loss of health care for us all. And so I ask you, dear people, in the beginning of this new year, are we listening? Are we hearing of these things that are concerning to us and to our God? And are we willing to be courageous and bold and do something? You know, when we have been ordained, we are ordained to be prophetic. We are ordained to talk about the things that are perhaps uncomfortable to hear. But we need to hear these words. And we are given scripture that is called to enlighten us and to give us direction as to where we should go and what we should do. So this morning you heard the story of the new Pharaoh that has come to the land. And I want you to listen to that story in your hearts and say, where are there parallels today? How is it that Scripture is speaking to us today in the world in which we are living? For the passage in Exodus speaks as we hear the long, long Exodus narrative in the beginnings of our Bible. And in that reading, and in all of the readings, if we have ears to hear and eyes to see, we see behind the scenes, and more powerful than all the pharaohs, we see God in action. More powerful than all the kings and the tyrants that might be in our life. For I truly believe that it is God who takes the first step in response to the suffering of the people of our ancestors, of Abraham and of Sarah. And they had been promised abundant blessings and a land of their own, and a God who would be with them always. People, those are words for us as well. We hear today that God is with us wherever we are, whatever we do or do not do. But I also hear God challenging us. So we heard of the story of the new Pharaoh who came to the land, who did not know of Joseph and all he had done for the country. And I'm wondering if we can see parallels in this story to our lives here today. There were many of Joseph's people who had been invited to live in this new land of Egypt, and they were hard workers, and they multiplied, and the new Pharaoh was not happy that these people were not his people. And so he put them into forced labor and made them live as slaves. And the new Pharaoh saw only what was in his own best interests, and how the Israelites, who didn't look like him, nor were of his kind, had grown in number and feared that they would overtake his land and his followers. He saw them as resident aliens and felt threatened by them. He was ruthless and he was brutal. Yet the more they were oppressed, the more they grew and the more they spread. And when that didn't get rid of them, he devised a plan to be rid of them. He sent them all down the river, so to speak. But I want you to know that this is also a story of courageous women who defied the Pharaoh's orders and kept the boy children alive. And it is the women, the early matriarchs of the family of Levi, the chosen people of God, and the midwives who are heroes of this story. They were clever and they were indeed courageous. Now Moses, the name that is given to the baby boy, means that he was drawn out of dire circumstances or pulled out of the water. As his mother took that reed basket and sealed it with tar to make it waterproof and set him among the reeds at the riverbank, that is the story of Moses, who was sent down the river, but with a twist. The waters of death became the waters of life. You see, he was saved, and Moses goes on to become an instrument of life and change for his nation. And Moses is an example for us today. You know, as so often happens with God, the instruments of transformation come in unexpected and surprising ways, though often through the most unexpected and surprising people, which could be a call to each one of us to see where God is calling us to make a difference. And as Edwin said to the children, every child has a purpose, and every grown-up child has a purpose as well. We have heard repeatedly that members of our church and those who come through our door, particularly the group of new people that have just joined today, are interested passionately about doing more outreach and justice seeking. Right?
Right.
So I challenge us today, at the beginning of this new church year, to begin to think more seriously than we have ever seriously thought before about being a justice-seeking church, more involved in mission, more involved for peace, in living our lives passionately dedicated to our mission, to seek justice and mercy and kindness wisely. What challenges this perilous tale in the book of Exodus and how we can relate it to our lives today, as Mary Ludy so eloquently said, is the impromptu conspiracy of women who decided that enough was enough. It's about what happened when they decided that there's never anything to be gained by standing around wringing our hands and cursing fate. It's about the risks they took to assure a future, not just for a boy named Moses, but for a whole people, and you could say for all of us as well. We need to see in what ways God will give us the courage, as the women with Moses teaches us, to resist evil and support the weak. And when we decide that enough is enough and put our foot down, and when we resolve to try something, I tell you, anything to save a life and not just our own. People, are we clever enough, determined enough, cheeky enough, angry enough to devise delaying tactics against injustice, deciding to join the small, persistent band of God's beloved who lie awake at night, thinking up ways to bamboozle the new Pharaoh? Can we stand against indifference and despair, to be a launcher of life, every day to float a frail hope for the future on the vast waters of the world's pain, disciplining ourselves out of love to wait and to watch and to pray until against the odds all those small hopes in all those little baskets come back, grown strong to liberate and to save, because they will come back. They will. And as Mary Ludy continues, but we do have to believe that no matter which Pharaoh's army is arrayed against us, no matter the tyranny threatening our hearts, the big questions of justice and the questions of peace, the ordinary hardships of life, the misunderstandings of malice of others, the illness or grief we did not cause or want or cannot fix, or the self-defeating troubles of our own making, we are never adrift with no one watching. Someone who once launched us like a faint dream on a great river, you see, is keeping track of us. The same someone who will, like a woman, know how to seize just the right moment to reach for us. You see, this is a blessing that has been given to every one of us. We are all God's children, no matter what race or color or gender or socioeconomic status we have, immigrant or refugee. God calls us all to be defiant women and men of courage. And we are to resist evil. As we know from our own history, as John Holbert has said, it is always far easier to play the triumph than it is to be God's people. Triumphs are a dime a dozen, or at least so it appears, while people of God, well, they are rare, it seems, all too rare. And you know, dear people, we all need saving in this world of ours today. So let us see again where God can work in our lives. With a new Pharaoh in our land, let's remember to be challenged as courageous people to save ourselves and our neighbors and the Moseses of today, who can be plucked out of danger and given a chance to live fully. Dear people, so may it be. Amen.